Today we'd like to do just a little introduction for the Idaho Pasture Pig, or IPP. We've raised them for a few years and just want to share some things that we've either found as breeders, or if you're just trying to raise them out for feeders, what works and what we found that helped on our farm. I'll be right there. Yes, I know. Have a seat. On a farm, it's always farm 30, and everybody wants something. So we want to discuss a little bit about, in 2006, Idaho Pasture Pigs were a breed that came from Duroc Cooney, as it's pronounced by Google Translate, and Berkshire. And Cooney is a little fat piglet, meaning that they, are fat and round, but they take a while. They'll take up to 14 months to get to 120 pounds. Berkshire and Duroc both take, maybe 6 to 7 months, and they can get up to, 250 pounds, 275, somewhere in that neighborhood if you're feeding them out to the max. The Idaho Pasture Pig is a combination of those three, and so its growth rate is moderate, but so you'll get some of the meat and fat qualities that are somewhat legendary.
Pig.
Good morning. How can I help you? Would you like breakfast today? I will get you some breakfast. Good morning. Would you like some fruit with your veggies? Just fruit? Okay, you got it. I'm on it.
This is our main breeder pair of Idaho Pasture Pigs. We have Russell and Miss Piggy. They are coming up on 3 years old and have had multiple successful litters.
Okay, these are done. So if you start a breeding program, you're going to want to do this the right way and take the time to get in touch with an established breeder that has experience and has been around and is trying to promote the breed. There's always, like with any animals, people that want to produce a fast dollar, and it's not going to be what we really want to do to excel at good IPP lines. So some of the traits will go heavy towards a parent breed, such as a long snout or something, and those need to be feeders. So you might get 6 to 8 piglets in a litter, and 2 or 3 of those might be breeding quality, and the rest are going to need to be feeders. So that just gives you sort of an idea of what your ratio for breeders to feeders. You might be more fortunate than that, but you need to expect that not every single piglet's going to be a breeder and conform to the standard. And if you have too many feeders, there's never a problem with having too much bacon. So when it comes to conformation, there's some critical items. It has to have a friendly disposition, or it needs to be bacon and not bred. Typically moms will have some maternal instinct, and your first litter of piglets is going to be super exciting, but just because these guys are friendly to you doesn't mean that they want to have all humans picking up their piglets, which typically make a lot of noise. So you need to keep your new mom, kind of quiet and calm, and use your best judgment there. Another thing about conformation is the snout. It's incredibly important. You don't want a snubby snout or a long snout. It needs to be that signature upturned dish snout that has been bred for pasture pig grazing. These guys do not typically root, but they will for different reasons. One of them can be boredom or lack of minerals. You can actually get them to root if you tighten up your paddock and put them on something like, we have Canadian thistles, and we can tighten up a paddock and they'll do a little bit of rooting, but you've got to watch it daily and move them off once they're done, because otherwise you'll end up with holes that are difficult to fill back in or what have you. Hi. How are you?
Good morning, Georgia.
Good morning, Jordan. Not into the greens today? Not into the greens? Hi, good morning. Good morning, sweetie. Good morning. Good morning. I know. You don't want me. You want my food. Here, let's do this. It's served. There you go. There you go. Oh, scratches. Scratches. Yeah, your sweetie. Oh, such a good mama. Look at you. Look you over. So these guys are amazing pigs. The fat is clean and gorgeous, and so is the meat. It's a deep red, and people will tell you about flavor, and a lot of times we can't tell the difference. Maybe I don't have quite as developed palate, but usually it's a lot of nuance. But with this particular meat, the first time we tried it, we all cooked up a pork chop, nothing special, and as soon as we took our first bite, everybody dropped the fork and is just like, what is this? So, and it wasn't just a really good, barbecue that night, but the flavor, it's kind of like almost a strawberry. If you eat store-bought strawberries all your life, and then you go get a vine ripened fresh one out of the field and eat that, it's just that completely different taste experience. And so, it's with these guys, if we can, we will never go back. So depending on food rations, you can get up to 150 to 175 pounds in about 7 months, and 225 to 275 in about 10 months. But that's if you're max feeding. It depends on, like with us, we do pasture grazing and supplement, and so depending on what time of year and what the feed availability is, we'll let them go longer and won't push food as much. And with these guys, we have minerals and some other supplements and feed, but typically it's about 80% pasture. I know. So they can top out at about 400 to 450 pounds, but with breeders, we want to do a little bit different feeding with these guys, and we want to give mom all the nutrients she needs, especially as she develops the litter inside of her, but we don't want to do the same feeding program, obviously, and get her big and fat as possible, quickly as possible. We want to keep them a little bit lean so that, they're going to be our forever farm pigs. So you need to make sure and keep them healthy, keep them on those mountains, walking up hills and having a little bit of exercise. Right, Mom? Right, Mom? So this is a bare minimum shelter for a nursery or creep. We have these boards along the side and in the back, and what that does is when mom lays down to nurse her babies, she's not gonna squish them. It gives them the room to kind of squish out to the sides. Otherwise, the mortality rate can be a little bit higher. We have a heat lamp suspended in the back here, and for our temperature for these guys this time of year, it gives them just that little extra boost to keep them warm when they're not up next to mom and nursing. We've got a little bit of hay, but you don't want to overdo it with the hay. But these guys are waiting for Mom to come back after she eats her breakfast.
Let's talk terms. So a uncastrated male is called a boar. A castrated male is called a barrow. A female that hasn't had piglets yet is called a gilt. And then a sow is a female pig who has had a litter. So a first-time mom usually will deliver approximately 5 to 7 piglets, whereas a sow can typically produce up to a dozen piglets. The typical litter usually takes 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days to develop inside of mom. Here we're showing the teats of the piglet, and typically for breeding quality we want to see even symmetrical teats, and then if there's uneven ones we'd like to see it behind the umbilical cord. Aren't these chocolate Idaho Pasture Pigs beautiful? There are some great and comprehensive trait descriptions and resources on the Idaho Pasture Pig Registry, which we will link below. There's also some great supportive Facebook groups with very helpful people ready to answer questions about your IPP journey. Thank you for coming along with us as we teach you a little bit about our Idaho Pasture Pig journey. Please hit the like button, comment, share, and subscribe.